Welcome back, y'all, to Supreme Court cases. As we have gone through the last few days, we have learned about all 4 sets of our Supreme Court cases, and we've discussed 32 of them. So, in an effort to make sure that we know exactly what we're talking about and make sure that we can remember all of these court cases specifically and individually, we're going to go back through and make sure that we can think of ways to remember all of them. So, we're going to go one at a time. All right. So starting at the very, very top, Marbury versus Madison. The key here that we need to think about is judicial review. It's not necessarily the details of the case that are important for this one, as it was just some petty old white men being mean to each other. Really what we need to remember here is that judicial review is established. So the judges can hear a case and they can decide whether or not that action is constitutional. So if I were you, I would put like JR in real big letters, circle it, highlight it, dramatically mark somehow. Make sure that you remember judicial review is established. That is our first case. I'm specifically going to ask you about this on your check for understanding, so just be mindful of that. Okay, McCullough versus Maryland is next. This is the only one that has to do with a bank. So if you want to put some money signs next to it, that's fine. The word tax real big. McCullough versus Maryland is when the state bank tries to tax the federal bank and they lose real bad. Okay, so something about banks or taxes will do. The next one here is Gibbons versus Ogden. These are the 2 ferry boats. This is the only one that has to do with water. Okay, so if you want to put like H2O across the side of it, maybe make a note out to the side like draw a little wave, draw a little boat, something. Okay, something that has to do with water or the ocean. Okay, next is Korematsu versus the United States. This particular one is about your limits on your rights during times of war, including your right to live where you want. Because remember, this was about Japanese Americans being forced into internment camps during World War II. So if you want to put like WW2 across the side, if you want to put camps across the side, whatever you need to do to make sure that you remember this is World War II. Keep it moving. And the next one is Heart of Atlanta versus U.S. This one is about the individuals who were at the motel. So if you can remember the motel, that's totally fine. If you want to talk about like private businesses, that's also okay. However you want to remember that one is fine. Okay, U.S. versus Nixon happens in 1974. So this one is Richard Nixon saying that he has what's called executive privilege, so nobody is above the law. If you want to just put president out to the side, that might be helpful. If you want to put like a little telephone or a little cassette tape, that's fine, because remember, he decided to get rid of 13 minutes worth of cassette tapes, and they're like, turn over the tapes, Richard, and he was like, no, I don't have to, I'm the president. Yes, he does, and he didn't, and he decided to step down as president as a result. So that one will work. Plessy versus Ferguson. This one is about a black train car and a white train car. So if you literally want to draw one that is colored in black and one that is white, that might help you out. Something about trains, something about separate is equal. Remember, that is not true in today's times, but it was true in 1896. The next one is Brown versus Board of Education. So this one is that sweet little baby Linda Brown has to walk by the white school to get to the black school. If you want to just put like integrated or separate is not equal and like put a big equal sign, something about integrating people of all races together, something to do with that. That is a way to remember that. That is everybody all together. All right, and Tinker versus Des Moines. This is the armband case. So if you want to just draw a little peace sign, draw an armband, that might help you out, because these are the 2 people that decided they and their friends wanted to protest the Vietnam War. And they decided to wear armbands in order to do so, and they were suspended even though it was not disruptive. All right, Gideon versus Wainwright is the one about an attorney. So this is the Cinderella story case, where he's a sweet little old man who has an 8th grade education, and he's homeless because of a host of terrible situations in his life. And he ends up getting his case sent all the way up to the Supreme Court, goes to the Supreme Court, and is then able to walk free since he did not actually rob anything. All right, so this one, if you want to put like attorney, present, that would be helpful. But do remember that we have a couple more that have to do with attorneys. So if you want to make sure like affording an attorney has to do with it, or like an attorney even if you don't have any money, that'll be helpful. If you want to draw like a little Cinderella glass slipper, that's fine too. All right, Engel versus Vitale is one about prayer in public schools. So if you want to help remember this one, if you put your hands together in a V shape, all right, so put the ends of the palms, both your hands together, make a V shape, then you, V for Vitale, and then you close them, your hands are in prayer, and you're not supposed to be able to force prayer in school. So V for Vitale with your hands, and then close it in prayer hands. That is not admissible to be done in public school. You cannot force children to pray in a public school. Matt versus Ohio, this is a crazy lady who decides to put her fake warrant down her bra and run away from the cops, and they found some terrible things in her house and could not use it against her because it was gotten with a fake warrant. So if you want to put just warrant across that, that's totally fine. Or if you want to put like Medea, because she's Medea, just not funny. All right, the next one is UC versus Beck. So this one is about affirmative actions. Remember, this one is this white guy who gets denied from medical school 2 times because of racial quotas. They had enough white people. They needed more black men. And so he got chosen. He did not get chosen in favor of a black man 2 times. So this one is about affirmative action. So if you want to put like favoring minorities, something about that. White guy gets denied could also be one, whatever you want to do about that. Next one is Swan versus Charlotte Meck. So this one is about buses. So if you want to draw a bus, I would strongly suggest that. Busing to schools in order to integrate with regards to race is totally fine. Here's the Karens. All right, so New York Times versus U.S. This one says that freedom of press is not limited unless it constitutes clear and present danger. If y'all have not seen this movie with Harrison Ford, shameless plug, you should. It's great. All right, so if you want to put like newspaper, this is the only one that involves a newspaper that we've talked about that is not at a school. So if you want to put this down, you can just put like paper can print whatever they want as long as it doesn't hurt someone's life. It's really up to you. Next one is Schenck versus United States. This also has to do with freedom of press during times of war. This man tells people not to enter the draft, and he is therefore considered a threat to national security. So it's up to you. Next one is Hazelwood versus Coalmire. There's really not a great way to remember this one. I don't have a great mind trick to help you out with this one. Just mostly that it's a Hazelwood school. So for this one, I would write out beside it school paper. School paper. Because that'll probably set off in your mind freedom of press. Bethel School, this is the wild man. So this is the one who gives his wild, I know a man that is firm speech. Okay, so for Bethel versus Frazier, if you want to put like lewd speech across the side or like disruptive speech, you can definitely do that. Please make sure that you can tell me the difference between Tinker and Bethel, okay? So Tinker versus Des Moines is one where they wear armbands, and it's totally fine to have that. Your freedom of speech is totally cool if it's not disruptive. This man is 1,000% disruptive, and therefore his freedom of speech was limited as a result. Okay, so please make sure you can draw the distinction between those two. This next one is New Jersey versus TLO. So as you can see, this individual only has their initials, not their whole name on there because they are a minor. So this is homegirl who was the plug at school and got caught and did not need a warrant to go through her bag. Okay, so if you want to put like weed at school, that would probably be a good way to remember this one. Or she got searched at school, either way. Texas versus Johnson, this is a flag burning. If you want to just draw a flag or write the word flag out to the side, that's how we remember this one, because this man violates the Texas flag code, but Texas flag code does not stack up against what the Supreme Court says because they are federal and Texas is just a state. All right, but don't tell them that. All right, the next one is Furman versus Georgia. Here's a good way to remember this one. Furman is first. So if we skip over here to Gregg versus Georgia, both of these happen in the state of Georgia, and they both have to do with murder, and they both have to do with the death penalty. They can get a little confusing. So if you want to write out beside it, Furman is first. Okay, Furman is first. All right, that'll probably help you out for that one. All right, and then we'll just skip down to Gregg versus Georgia and then go back to Roe versus Wade, all right? So for Gregg versus Georgia, this one is the white man. So by the time the white man gets through the court system, Gregg is second, okay? So Gregg is last. He's the one who does end up receiving the death penalty, although he does escape from prison but dies in a bar fight, so there's that. Let's go back to Roe versus Wade. This is the one about abortion. This is the only Supreme Court case that we will discuss that has to do with abortion. So if you'd like to do that one, that's fine. All right, keeping it moving. Miranda versus Arizona. I don't know what else you could possibly need to remember about this besides Miranda rights. Okay, so Mirandize. It's even a verb. It's like just take Mirand, take the A off, and I-Z-E. It is turned into a verb. All right, and we're just about done here. Wallace versus Jaffrey is moment of silence. So here's the deal. If you take 3 fingers and put them up like it shapes a little W, and you flip them over, it makes an M for moment of silence. So again, if you take just 3 fingers and hold them up like you're just holding up the number 3, then you flip them over, it's not really number 3, it's a W for Wallace, and then you flip them over and it's an M for moment of silence. Okay? And then Abington versus Shemp is another one about schools and freedom of religion in schools. So this is about reading the Bible in school. So if you put your hands together in like a little triangle, like the Deltas do, or like, I don't know, like when you get like Nike gloves and they say boom across them or whatever, and you put your hands together, like put your middle fingers and your thumbs together like a big diamond, and then you open them up like you're reading a book, okay? A for Abington, and then you open it like you're reading the Bible. So the 3 that we've talked about with regards to religion in school, we have Engel versus Vital. So we make a V with our hands and then put it together, no forced prayer in school. We have a W for Wallace versus Jaffrey. We flip it over and it's an M for moment of silence. And then we have an A with our hands for Abington versus Shemp. We open up our hands, and that is not being forced to read the Bible in school. In Re Galt, this one is about juvie rights. So remember, this man's only his last name is revealed because he is a minor. So if you want to just do like juvie rights, that would be good for that one. Nazi versus Skokie. Nazis are hateful humans, so we're going to put hate speech. Dred Scott versus Sanford. Dred Scott is the one who sues for his freedom. Okay, so Dred Scott sues. Okay, S for Scott, S for sues. West Virginia versus Barnett is Pledge of Allegiance. Lemon versus Kurtzman, I will not put on the check for understanding, so we're not going to stress about that one. And then Escobedo versus Illinois is you must have an attorney present. Okay, so Escobedo is another one with an attorney, but I'll tell you, I will not put that one on the check for understanding either. Okay, so there are the ways to remember our Supreme Court cases.